Here we are again with
We have
another
your
unplanned
updates now
recording.
after the whole texting thing
Unscripted.
happened. Yes. Okay, so tell me what happened. So you texted him.
I texted him and then he wrote back at what time was it for him? Let me go. It was his 7:24. I mean, we said yesterday I should text him back. I mean, I told him that, yeah, nice hearing from you. I'm still here in the Dominican Republic. And then you told me to add on, what's on your mind? I'm still surfing, blah, blah, blah. And so I got the message back this morning, was thinking the other day, and your name popped into my head. And
Okay, so I want to back up for a second and give like context here. Okay, so storytelling time. So context of real dating, real life adventures. So here you were yesterday, and we were reporting about reporting about actual neuroscience, dating, all this. And you said, "Oh my gosh, there's this guy who randomly texted me who I haven't talked to in years." And he said, just randomly, "Hey, are you still, in the Dominican Republic?" And your response to it was, "I'm so nervous. I'm so excited. This and this." And it was like this big high wave. So then we caught this on camera too in real time. It was so fun. And I was like, okay, wait. These are like breadcrumbs. And you're like, yeah, but what do you mean? Like for him to think of me after all this time? And I was like, well, what are your thoughts on it? And then you went into, I don't know, like, what would that mean? Where would we live? What would this do? Where's he at in his life? Like big thoughts, big thoughts. And I was like, okay, but like, he's just asking if you're in the DR. Yeah, but why would he ask that? There must be something, over here. And so really good. I was like, okay, this is breadcrumb versus charcuterie. And you're like, what's the difference? And I was like, breadcrumb is, how are you? I've thought of you, whatever. Charcuterie is what you're looking for. That's like, I'm offering all of this to you. Would you like to receive this? Would you like to enjoy this? And your response was so good because your response was so on point. And when you rewatch it, you could hear it. You went, but it's way too early for charcuterie. I wouldn't be able to handle all that. That's too much. And I said, yes, but you're responding as though he's giving charcuterie, but he's only giving breadcrumbs. And you went, oh, I said, yes, if you're responding with, what would this mean? And what could it do? That's charcuterie responses, not breadcrumbs. And then I was walking you through whether it was on the video yesterday or not. And I walk women through this too in the course. How do we get rid of breadcrumb vibe of it coming in? Because a breadcrumb vibe, we need to like neutralize it. I use my arm as like, when you go into the hospital and somebody's like on the deathbed and it's like, meh, that like neutral, it's
flatline.
completely dead. Like, yes, we have to flatline breadcrumb responses because if we respond to breadcrumbs with this high, as though it's charcuterie, we will continuously energetically get breadcrumbs. And it isn't until we flatline our response to breadcrumbs that energy has to come in bigger for it to even get a response from us. And so we are essentially demanding and refusing anything less than bigger at that point. But now we're fast forwarding in the conversation to you had asked me yesterday, what would you respond? And I was like, well, what do you want to respond? And we talked through that. And then I said, I would want to also respond or add a little bit of curiosity because men love being pulled in by curiosity. If you look at the things that they put their time, money, and energy into, it's things that they have to like seek, they have to pursue that masculine energy. And I was like, so yeah, tell him, yeah, I'm still here, but also tell him something fun you're still doing to see if he asks about it. See if he wants to, join in. What are his intentions? And like you said, what are your thoughts or whatever. So you responded.
What's on your mind?
Now tell me what if he was. Yeah, what's on your mind? Great. So what did he respond back now with?
He responded back with, hold on tight, was thinking the other day. Ooh, he can think. And your name popped into my head.
So I love, so this morning I was like, for anybody who's watching this, you respond back, you're like, the strong breadcrumb vibes. I'm like, she gets it. She gets it. Because you went from this thing where you're like, this is so exciting. And also it could be exhausting. And I can't do this. And what's it going to be? Or what's it not to like, nah.
Let's get married.
Like, you got it. You're like, it's breadcrumbs, whatever. So I'm so excited to see how fast that changed for you once you understood what your body and brain were doing. Once you understood that pattern, you're like, oh yeah, that's it. I'm not, no more. But then from there, I want to give a follow-up thing of this. Men do this all the time. And I mean good men, bad men, all men. And the reason is this: men's brains think forward, backward, women's brains think left and right hemisphere connection. So we're always thinking, what does this mean for me? What could I mean for that? How do we connect? Men are just like, Dominican Republic. Oh, I know someone who lives there. Wonder if they still live there. Do you still live there? Yes, you do? Great. I was just thinking about it. They literally were just thinking about it. That's it. There could have been an ad that came up for like, visit the Dominican Republic. And they're like, I know a guy named Joe who lives there. Hey, Joe, do you still live there? You do? Great. We, however, will be like, he texted me after 3 years. This is kismet, or what does he want? Or what could this mean for me or him? Men do not do that. And this is one of the great examples where it's like, this is not red flags. This is not trauma. This is not inner child. This is just the difference, according to neuroscience and biochemistry, between a man's brain and a woman's brain. And one of the ways that we as women deplete ourselves because we don't know better. And so we hear this thing and we're like, wonder why they would want to talk to me. And we even do this with women. You could have a friend text you out of nowhere and be like, why? Why? I wonder what she wants. I wonder if she wants to hang out. It's because the way our brains are. We are forming stories that are not there. You know what I mean? And we're meant to do that. There's a whole bunch of science about why. But we also lack very often, not everyone, but we're learning this. And that's part of what I'm hoping to do for women, because I had to learn this myself, learning the discernment to go, is this a breadcrumb energy response or a charcuterie board energy response? What are they offering me? And is that something I want to multiply? If they're offering me something where I want to sit there for 3 hours and enjoy charcuterie with them, great. If not, no, they're not even offering that. This is a breadcrumb. And so it gets a breadcrumb response. And then you save your energy instead of being depleted. Yeah.
Oh, it's still a very bitter pill to swallow, though. I mean, it's just so shocking that, yeah, I mean, okay, now I'm making up stories, but it's just hard to believe that he didn't know what he's doing with that message.
I don't think that I'm going to answer this 2 ways. One, if he did know what he was doing, would you want to give him any more energy? Would you want to give any more energy to thinking about it, participating in it, anything?
Yeah, I mean, in that sense, it doesn't make a difference because, of course, not.
Yeah.
So the outcome would
And
still be the same, that I didn't want to put more energy in it.
yeah. And so then the next question comes, why do we then want to know if it was malicious, if it was ill intent, if it was just they really didn't think of it? Why do we get stuck in that? Why do we get stuck in wondering their whys? And the reason is always our subconscious brain scanning for more data points in this belief, which is an illusion, that if we have enough data, we can prevent being hurt in a way that we were hurt before. Even if it wasn't
Yeah,
hurt by that person, even if it was hurt in a similar way, we go, ooh, that stung a little, or ooh, that caught me off guard. And so metabolically, before we even get to the nervous system, every single cell is scanning for, does this cause a feeling of stress? Because if it does, it causes a loss of cell voltage. And when your cells lose cell voltage, they die, they age,
yeah,
right? So before you even get to your nervous system, your brain and body is scanning of, ooh, was that stressful? And so even if it was just a little stressful, confusion, upsetting, whatever, we then want to know all the whys, all the
yeah.
details, all the data, and the illusion that if we could find all the data, then we won't lose cell voltage. We won't have stress again. And that's an illusion. Instead, focusing on the resilience. Even without knowing this, would I put the energy back in you? Would I want to continue giving any more energy to breadcrumbs? No. Would I want to multiply what they're offering? No. Like, not at all. And then allowing yourself to move on. And that can feel uncomfortable at first because that's neuroplasticity. You're learning a new path. But the more you do it, the more your body goes, ooh, that actually did save me energy. That actually does feel really good. And it becomes the new norm to your body. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. It does.
Yeah, because for me, it's like, well, he just needed attention, you know? That's how it comes across to me. He just wanted attention and like a little bit out of a kick that I'm still replying after 9 or 10 years, you know?
That's a really good response. That what I hear from that is very often, so the following thoughts will support what I'm about to say, of like what I'm thinking. Our subconscious only knows that we exist. So when you're saying he wanted attention, he wanted to know that I was still thinking of him, after all these years, there's like this sense of like, embarrassment. Why did I let myself do that? Oh my gosh, why did I show my hand like in cards, Why did I reveal this? If I would have just kept it in. And he like his little text made me do all of this and I offered. And so really with our subconscious, one of the things that may or may not be there, which sounds like it might be there this time, is irritation at self for expending that energy that wasn't worthy of the response or the
Yeah.
expenditure.
Okay, let me process that these thoughts are now coming up because my subconscious mind needs some.
Yeah, essentially think of it this way. We can do it this way. If you were to close your eyes, place your hands on the center of your chest, kind of like a weighted blanket, just breathing in and out slowly. And so as we process this thoughts and responses of, he texted something that was breadcrumbs. I responded in a way that was excited and full of curiosity. And then he responded again in breadcrumbs. And now there's irritation. Why was he acting that way? Was it because he wanted to see if all these years later I would respond or that I still remembered him or was still thinking of him? And yet our subconscious only knows we exist in truth. And so to our subconscious, he's just a movie. So a lot of times when we get stuck in these whys, it's us trying to find all the data to prevent ourselves from experiencing loss again, loss of energy, loss of time, loss of cell voltage, whatever stress it is. And so if we're able to close our eyes and go, okay, with me, with myself, if that was just a movie and it was just an experience, what did I experience from that I actually I'm glad I experienced? Like even a bad movie, you can learn something because that's really what your subconscious is trying to do, but we can just
Hmm.
expedite it towards optimization. We don't have to, there's two ways to look at it. There's the way of looking at it of find all the data, find all the whys, which is impossible. We can't read everyone's mind all the time. And even if we did, that doesn't make it better. To have the illusion of preventing it from happening again. Or we can find it and process it like it was a movie. What do we learn? And moving forward. Both are you're learning something. But one is how do I protect myself, victimhood? And the other is how do I build resilience, strength proactively?
Yeah, so I'm really grateful for having had that lessons to distinguish breadcrumbs from charcuterie board and seeing it clearly. I think that was the lesson I needed to learn. I mean, it's nothing new kind of, but the way you broke it down finally really landed, you know?
Mm, Yeah, when we're able to step outside of seeing a lot of the relationship interactions through the lens of emotion versus like they're just patterns, metabolically, energy, like energy gain, it gives me energy, or energy loss. That's actually how our body thinks of it before we even get to emotions, before we're even creating neurotransmitters and all the things that are biochemicals that are emotions. It really is this giving me energy or taking energy? And when we can see that, it makes it so much faster for us to see all the things in a way that we go, "Ooh, okay, now I know how to walk through this better next time." I don't have to look for all the whys as much. I don't have to be in fear as much. I just know either they meet me here or I just go next, next,
Yeah,
next.
yeah.
Yeah. And that helps a
Conserve my
lot.
energy. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah. And not
yeah,
in this hiding way, in this way that is not worthy of my time and my energy. It's like corn syrup versus honey. Like, yeah, you can offer corn syrup. I get it. It's sweet, but I prefer honey. I prefer something that helps me build my life, build my goals, achieve the quality of experiences that I desire.
yeah.
Longevity. Yeah.
And everything else is just disturbing my peace.
Yes, and what I've seen is like so many women out there are posting now about this, saying, even men, they're like, why are women single now? Why are so many women single now? And a lot of it that they're saying is it's because women have realized that it just disturbs their peace. Trying to get a man disturbs their peace. And I think a massive reason for that is because they have not learned how to actually connect in a way that brings them peace. They've learned how to avoid pain. They're being
Yeah,
taught how to avoid pain versus find pleasure and peace. And a great example of that of proving that is they still have friendships.
Yeah.
And the fact that they still have friendships and they're not out there doing courses on relationship counseling for friendships, that right there proves that and no friend is perfect. No person's perfect, but they still have friendships that they're not always peaceful about. But what they've learned is with the deepest part of their heart, just avoid letting someone in, avoid letting a man in. I think it's because they've learned it's better to look for all the red flags, all the reasons that you can't let someone in, you can't trust again. You were hurt. That's all it's going to lead to is depletion again. Versus what is it to have resilience and open your heart and trust again in a way that you know you will respect. I mean, be receiving more because you understand a process to hold with wisdom, receiving more. Like that hasn't really been taught, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, here's a great example. Back to that question. Why are women single now, and so many women are single now, and men even posting on that saying, "Well, it's because they're protecting their peace." Okay, years ago, I remember like these posts coming out, and I was like, "Man, you're right," because I'm doing everything right. I'm doing the red flag thing, and I'm doing the 8 tips of what to look for on the first date. And if he does these 5 things, and I'm like, I was like taking notes. My analytical brain, I work in pattern recognition. Like, yes, this and this, this. I did take the notes with me to the dates, but I had it down. I was like, okay, this and this and this and this. And seriously, I would get from one step to the next step and the next step. And then all of a sudden to be at this point where we're going on dates regularly. I'm letting him in. I'm starting to trust him, whatever it may be. And then he ghosts. And it's like he was good, good, good until I actually allowed myself to start trusting him. And then he would ghost. I
Mm.
had no framework of how to have him prove to me what his intentions were. I only was
Yeah.
taught the framework that's out there, how for me to scan to see if I can find something bad. That's a horrible way to approach any relationship. Could you imagine if I was like, these are all the quick tip posts and eight ways and 5 things to make sure that this friend isn't ever going to hurt you? That would be a horrible way to approach making friends. And yet that's what's out there. I didn't have a framework of these are the ways that you walk step by step and don't let them in until they have proven their intentions with you.
Yeah.
That's what the dating roadmap does. And it does. It makes him prove his intentions because he's the masculine energy. He's the one who's performance. I'm the one who's supposed to be in pleasure and receiving. I'm not the one who's supposed to be like an investigative detective on this guy. Like that was exhausting. Scanning for red flags and these quick tip posts about red flags and trauma research and attachment style, you're gonna stay single. You just are. I hate to say it, but you're gonna stay single. And at best, you're gonna get a relationship and you're gonna believe. And if you don't believe me, follow this. Follow till the end. You're gonna get a relationship and you're gonna believe, wow, we have the best communication and that's what makes it work. Okay. Follow that same relationship 5 years down the road. Okay. Number one, you found this person because your reticular activating system was in a place of looking for the worst, the worst. So at any moment, your brain is scanning for every second for 11,000 pieces of data. It can only take in 40. So that 40 is you're like, look for the red flags, look for what's wrong, look for attachment. Okay, great. That's the guy you set on. That's the guy who has the least red flags, least whatever. Now follow that relationship 5 years from now. You didn't pick it based on we play so great together. That may or may not be there. You didn't pick it based on we actually have the same morals, values, things that we enjoy. That may or may not be there. You did pick it based on we actually have the same goals of where we want to go in life. That may or may not be there. What it was picked on is make sure he doesn't hurt me. Make sure he doesn't hurt me.
Mm.
Make sure he doesn't hurt me. And so when you follow like 5 years later and you're like, okay, we also, that make sure it doesn't hurt me as far as communication, because all those things are taught within that communication sphere, right? Like, how do you communicate? Communication makes the relationship work. 5 years later, look at that guy with his friends that he's had long-term friendships with. Any guy in your life. Does he have great long-term friendships because he's works on communication with them? No, he doesn't. Look at the things that guys attach, according to neuroscience, that they spend their time, money, and energy attaching to, showing up for. It's not communication classes. That's a female brain. Female is left and right hemisphere connection, communication. Men is forward, backward, their performance. And so here you are 5 years later, and whatever communication worked, you will have had more concerns, more issues, more things that are you guys playing together? Long-term study shows if you guys are not playing together, it's not sustainable. How does he have his long-term friendships? How do you have your long-term friendships? You know what you do? You enjoy each other. You and your girlfriends are not sitting around having weekends worrying about communication. Well, I feel like your attachment style is this and mine is this. So your love language is that. No, that's not happening. You guys are staying friends through the highs and the lows because you enjoy laughing together and playing together. And
Yeah.
so when we have these systems that are teaching us avoid pain versus finding what brings us fuel through the highs and the lows, finding what makes relationships last long term, which is not necessarily communication. It is playing together. It's laughing together. It's recognizing, yeah, sometimes there just isn't a solution to this problem. Move on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we don't have to agree on everything. That's where you're going to see longevity in relationships. Yeah.
And also, one thing you touched upon earlier is that we were dating and suddenly he ghosted me. So, why does he leave when you finally start trusting him?
Yeah. So a lot of women are finding this now with what's out there in psychology. Scan for these things to avoid pain versus these are the things where he has to go step by step, like in the dating roadmap that I created. He has to go step by step and prove himself and prove his intentions to you before you let him into the next deeper level of his interaction with you. So because it's you being in charge of scanning and being an investigative detective of finding all the things you could wrong, one, dating's exhausting. Two, you may or may not find everything wrong. You know what I mean? And three, your reticular activating system in your brain is scanning for bad, so you're going to find bad. But he ghosts you because you have let him in, but he has not proven why he wants let in. And if
Yeah.
you say, well, he said he liked you. There's no girl like you. You're the whatever. You're the best woman I've ever met. You're the most unique. You're the whatever. Yes, that might be true right then. But that's different feeling about that, his observation about you right then is 100% different than his long-term intention. So unless you want to keep dating lessons, you have to change your perspective because if you want a person that's a relationship that's a lifetime, not a lesson, you have to be able to have him prove to you and show you and reveal to you his long-term intention that he's a long-term person, not just what he sees and how he observes you out of the sea of other women right now. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, 100%.
And that's what the
I
dating
mean,
roadmap does.
already,
Really needs to
yeah, yeah, already when you say like he needs to prove that he's a lifetime and not a lesson, that's like, okay. I mean, I think every woman needs to sit down and digest that a little bit. And
I mean,
that
how
it's on
many
us to
movies
create the standard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how many
And
movies have we seen where the guy says, "I've never met anyone like you"? Like, it's cliche. You know what I mean? And then we hear it, we're like, "He's never met anyone like me." He's really serious. He may have legitimately never met anyone like you. He could also say that to a weirdo at a gas station. "Dude, never met anyone like you." You know, like, that does not mean I want to be longevity in your life. It's like we hear it and it's like we need to learn discernment of how to raise the standard for him to show up and to prove his intentions. And this is where the heart wounds are. They're not just in the inner child and the whatever. And you can find it that way, but the fastest way to heal it is to create the environment little you deserved. And the dating roadmap does that. The environment that little you deserved is a higher standard. That's why she's accepting less. That's what this heals. It heals all that. It heals your friendships. It heals the standards that you have for your friendships and your relationships that are romantic and so many things. Yeah.
yeah, and maybe as a last question or a remark, you mentioned a lot what a lot of women feel, like that dating feels so much exhausting. Can you put a lens on this with your neuroscience knowledge or double
Yeah,
click
the
on it?
exhaustion is yeah, no, that's true. It's true. There's a saying, I actually really love to answer it this way. There's a saying that men are made and women are born. And what I created is based not just on red flags, green flags psychology. It's based on anthropological truths, neuroscience, and biochemistry. Anthropologically, men were made. They always, up until recently, had a rite of passage. You were a boy or you were a man. You were not a teenager. That wasn't a thing. You had a rite of passage where you proved your desire to perform in the community and contribute. Women are born. Women are born, and along the way, they say, "I'm hungry." No, you're not. "I feel sad." You're fine. "I'm scared." Suck it up. So a woman is born in this feminine energy. Feed me, love me, cherish me, receive. Feminine energy is receiving. With this discernment and intuition, I know that I'm hungry. I feel that I'm hungry. I know that I need help. And then along the way, it's lost. And so, yes, women are exhausted. They're depleted with dating now because there no longer is this support for her to stand in her intuition and connected to her intuition and the womanhood that she was born in. It becomes disconnected and she's silenced over the years. Yeah. And second guessing herself and her voice.
Yeah.
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 Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much, Jennifer.